Hello, hello, hello. Father Aaron here with the Advent Gospel Challenge Day 22. And I apologize. Yesterday I forgot I was a little pooped when I got around to it. I forgot to include the O antiphon for yesterday. Yesterday's O antiphon was O Oriens in Latin, O Day Star, O Morning Star. Referring, of course, in one sense to Venus, but really referring to Jesus, who spiritually is the morning star. At the before the great light, we see this shining star that is Jesus' human incarnation. Before the great light of his return, his human incarnation being so much smaller and more subtle, coming as this child in this, very humble way and walking the earth and teaching rather than coming with power and, triumph and glory and everything else, which he will at the end of the age. But in the meantime, we see this shining star. So in a time of confusion and chaos, we want wisdom to sort things out, right? O sapienta, O wisdom. Um, in a time where there are lots of claims on our allegiance and a lot of things offering to be our master, we seek a true Lord, O Adonai, O Lord. Uh, when In a time of rootlessness, when we don't seem to be attached to things, and there's sort of a confusion and a rootlessness, we seek a root, O Radix Jesse, O root of Jesse, attach us to the deep tradition. When we feel chained by sin, by circumstance, O key of David, O clavis David, O key of David, come and set us free, right? And when in a time of darkness, O Oriens, O morning star, shine upon us, right? Show us the way to go. So that was yesterday's O antiphon. I'll get to today's at the end of this. This is a long chapter. We are now right at it. We've come to it. And for all the preparation, the birth narrative, the wonderful, cozy Christmas story that we love, the shepherds and the whole nine yards, now we come to it. He has come into Jerusalem. We've heard that a couple chapters ago. He has been teaching and has been bothering all the right people. Now this comes home. Now this comes home. They've been seeking to have him killed. They've been seeking to put him to death. But now the festival of the unleavened bread is approaching, Passover. The chief priests and scribes are looking for a way to put Jesus to death, for they were afraid of the people. They're afraid that this is going to cause a popular movement. And first of all, they will lose their status. They'll lose their status. Second of all, that Jesus will cause such an uproar that the Romans are going to clamp down so hard that it's going to catch everyone. This does indeed end up happening. The Romans leveled Jerusalem in 70 AD after a Jewish uprising. And so this fear is not unrealistic. It's not out of nowhere, right? There is this sense that Rome will have patience and will have patience and will have patience until Rome has no more patience. Okay. This becomes a real threat. So they're looking for a way to put Jesus to death, but they're afraid of the people, remember. They can't do this when there's a crowd around. Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was one of the 12. Satan entered into Judas. Biblically, the understanding of sin is that it is the original breaking of the world that let sin exist. The serpent in the garden is interpreted as Satan. It's not mentioned in Genesis that it is Satan. It's just the serpent, craftier than anything else. But first of all, snakes have been a threat to humans from the beginning. Poisonous snakes are very hard to see. A tiger, a little tough to see. Lion, real obvious. They're not sneaky, right? Snakes are hard to see. They're very well camouflaged. They're in the grass, etc. And you can step on one and accidentally step close to one and be surprised. And so they are a natural way of understanding and talking about sin, because you can walk into sin sometimes unawares. But Satan enters in. So when people are taken into sin, that the devil made me do it kind of thing. This is, Satan entering into Judas. The devil made me do it. Well, no, the devil spoke to you and you chose that voice rather than the voice of God, right? The devil doesn't make anybody do anything. The devil influences, the devil suggests, Satan lures and tempts. It's always our choice. We have the choice. But Satan has entered into Judas, and he goes and he talks to the chief priests and the officers of the temple, and he arranges this, how to betray Jesus when there aren't crowds around. And then we come into the whole Passover story, the Last Supper, the arrangements for the room, etc., which I'm going to just let you read. This is a long chapter. I'm not going to go through everything. And there they are in the upper room. And he says, I've eagerly desired to eat this Passover with you before I suffer. I've eagerly desired. I have wanted to give you this gift. I have wanted to give you this gift. And such a serious gift, such a profound gift. This is my body. This is my blood. He is eager to do this. Eager. And so he shares it out. And again, pick up your Bible and read this. This is beautiful. I mean, this is an act of astonishing theological gravity and spiritual import. Jesus gives us a means by which we can remember him. And this is not an act of the head, right? Jewish remembering is more about making present again, to remember someone, to make them a member of the company again. And so when we remember, the people are there with us. There is in Toronto, I believe it's a Jewish student center on the campus of the U of T. And there's a room, it's a meeting room, a boardroom kind of thing. There's a big table down the middle, as I recall it. I've visited once, so my memories are not exact. But one thing I do remember is that on all the walls, there are pictures, a mural of victims of Auschwitz and of the Holocaust in general. And the mural extends to the windows, and it's done in black on the windows, so that as you look out at the city, you're looking through ancestors. You're looking through those who went before. You're looking through, you look at the world through the lens of that horrible event, and the memory of it ought to make you go to the world and seek justice, to go to the world and try to make it better, having looked at the world through the lens of these people. So Jewish remembrance is not just an act of the brain, right? It's not like, oh yeah, I remember when. It is to bring back into our midst and to live in that reality. Okay. And so you can see this very, very strongly in the Deuteronomy when Moses recounts what has happened along the way. You remember when this happened. You remember when this happened, and the people he's talking to, none of them were there. All of them had perished in the wilderness. And so he's saying, you remember this happened, and you were there, and none of them were. But again, they are remembering, they're making it present again, rather than just casting their memories back, their minds back as an act of imagination. This imagination is an imagination which makes things present again. So, do this for the remembrance of me. Do this to make me present among you again, to be back in this room, no matter where you go to celebrate this, no matter where you are celebrating this gift that I give you. When you break this bread, when you drink this cup, you do it to bring me back, to be in this room with me. So whether the Eucharist is celebrated at the altar of a high cathedral, in a humble little chapel, on the hood of a Jeep, in the middle of a war zone, in a prison cell, no matter where, there we are in the upper room with him. And in the middle of this, he says, see, the one who betrays me is with me, and his hand is on the table, right? He is telling them that he is going to die. He has given them this gift of his body and blood before he suffers, he tells them. And he says, one of you here is going to betray me. And they begin to ask which one of them could do this. And then a dispute arises about which one of them is regarded as the greatest. Are you kidding me? Really? Right now? That's when you're going to have this talk? Are you kidding me? Well, so there it is. Who's greater? And he says, who's greater? The one at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one at the table? I'm among you as one who serves. So take your whole idea of who's great and who's low, who's higher and who's lower, and really, really reimagine it. Because I am clearly here as your teacher. I'm the leader of this group, and I am here serving you. So quit thinking that way, right? He goes on. And he makes predictions about them and about what they will do. He tells Peter, "You're going to deny me, right? No, I won't. No, I won't. No, I won't." Then he begins to say, "Remember when I sent you out and you had no bag, no purse, none of that? Now is a time to have the purse. If you have a purse, keep it. Sell your cloak and buy a sword, right? Things are getting serious." And they say, "We have 2 swords." He says, "It's enough." Which is, there will be no huge uprising at his death. There will be no armed rebellion. The sword he's talking about is probably not literally going out and buying a sword. Although the church will be attacked. The church will be hunted for quite some time, but be prepared. And then they went out to the Mount of Olives. And this is when he goes off alone to pray, and he comes back and the disciples are asleep, right? Could you not wait 1 hour with me? Could you not watch 1 hour with me? From this grows the tradition on Maundy Thursday, after the stripping of the altars, of praying in the presence of the Blessed Sacrament for an hour that night. And while he's there, Judas comes and betrays Jesus with a kiss. The one I kiss, that's him, right? One of them strikes the slave of the priest and cuts off his right ear. So indeed, those swords do get used. But he heals that servant. This is not the time for swords. They've not the kind of time for swords. So he goes with them. He's seized and led away and taken to the high priest's house. We know the back and forth that happens. And this is when Peter denies. They kindled a fire in the middle of the courtyard and sat down together, right? And that's when Peter 3 times denies that he has anything to do with Jesus. It comes true, right? And they begin to mock and beat him, telling him to prophesy. And then they take him to the council and they question him, right? They question him and attempt to trap him in things. And he answers that if I tell you, you're not going to believe me. You're not going to believe me, right? He does refer to himself as the Son of Man, which is an image that comes out of Daniel. It's not, just a human being. The Son of Man was an image from the book of Daniel of the judge of the coming one, of the Messiah. So he's claiming a status, because you hear what they come back with: "Are you then the Son of God?" Right? And he says to them, "You say that I am." He's not giving them anything, okay? But they are going to condemn him anyway. That's where this ends, in the midst of the various, trials and show trials. Really, they've already decided the outcome. This is the intense stuff. Now, it's one of these things. We're reading this in Advent, so the closer we get to Christmas, the wonderful, beautiful, sentimental, the baby and the manger and the shepherds and the angels and stuff, the closer we get to that, the closer we get to the horror of the cross. The two are inextricably linked, though. There's no reason to be mortal. There's no reason to be fallible other than to allow death to overtake him. And there's no reason to let death overtake him other than to then rise again. So that having grasped our humanity, it can be drawn through death into life, right? There's no reason other than that. So the two are linked. And in fact, a medieval sort of trope, a medieval commonplace was that the wood of the manger, the trough, the feeding trough, was used as the wood of the cross. I don't think about how that would work in terms of lumber, because I don't think the medieval mind was thinking of it in those terms. Like, oh yes, they took it apart. It is parabolic, like a parable, a small thing which opens wider. The wood of the manger used to build the cross. His birth was his death. Which is, I've been reading Saxon poetry, and you know what? I mean, there's a reason they grasped onto Christianity pretty hard, because there is a sense of birth and death being one thing. And you hear it also echoed in T.S. Eliot's The Journey of the Magi. We had seen birth before, but not like this. This birth was death, our death. It's beautiful poetry. At any rate, that is where we'll stop today. Tomorrow, the 23rd day of Advent, we'll get to the next chapter. The antiphon for today. The antiphon for today is Rex Gentium. O vente Rex Gentium. O come, King of the nations. Gentium, Gentiles. O come, King of the nations. There is a growing understanding that God is not tribal. In the ancient world, gods were tribal. We have our God, you have your God, my God's better than your God. And you see this sort of humorously depicted in, of all things, the movie Conan the Barbarian, when they're talking about their various gods. The sky god is above. Conan's god is Crom. Crom is god of the earth, you know. And his friend says, my God is the sky god. My God is above your God. Conan objects to this strongly. His God is solid on the earth, you know. There's a sense, though, that tribal natures of gods, and you see this with the Greeks and the Romans. It just sort of adding gods to their mythology, because, oh, this place has a god. Oh, that must be, you know, a relative of this other god that we've already got, and you know, we'll just work him in there, right? But there's a sense that there is not a multiplicity. There's the one. And so in a world that is torn by war and violence and strife, how we long for everyone to understand we are all under one king. We are one people. We're not divided into a million different little shards. We are one. We are one. So, O Rex Gentium, O King of the nations. That's today's antiphon. I will talk to you tomorrow on the 23rd. Have a good rest of your day.